Alright, so using your amp with Amplitube. Let's check out my signal chain. Alright, so here we are. That's my Joyo Jackman tube. It's a 20 watt amp with a tube in it. And it's so loud that I had to build a master volume control for it. And it's back here. Put into the effects loop of the amp, and that way I can crank up the volume. And of course I have a cab for the amp, and it's mic'd up here with an Audio Technica 2020. The cab is a 10-inch one from Celestion, and my guitar goes into this board. And it has an AB switch, a few pedals, Tubescreamer and fuzz. And then I have my MIDI controller, expression pedal and a buffer. And from the buffer I'm going into a DI box, and the direct signal out of that one is going into my interface and into interface input 1 in there by an XLR cable, and then the microphone that is on the cab is in input 4, which I'll be using if I want to hear my amp. And yeah, that's basically the setup, and then I can route it in Studio One. And here's a tired little dog. Alright, so in the beginning we heard my clean channel of the Joyo, and I have it hooked up to Amplitube, and in Amplitube I have of course disabled the amp and the cabinet. I have my controller here, and that's for MIDI, and then I have the amp, so I control foot switch. I can control the amp channel, change it to clean, to distortion, and we'll hear that in a bit. And in Amplitube I wanted to have some delay and reverb, so I just took them from Amplitube and I added some delay in there, and then I had this shimmer verb. But let's change this to a hall. Let's put a little bit less, and let's hear how it sounds now. The delay is a bit much. Let's take that off. Alright, so, and that's my clean. Let's hear how it sounds, and this is the fun thing. So I got this. And that's the amp's drive channel. I have the gain maxed, and now, and why I do this is I like to use my actual pedals, self-made of course, in front of the amp. So let's hear how this changes when I put the Tubescreamer on. Let's take the bridge pickup. But yeah, it's I can do this like hybrid setup, and I have a bit of I have really like control over everything, and it's nice to just use this to change from to crunch. I mean overdrive. And yeah, it's as simple as that. And that amp actually also has a line out. I haven't tested how that sounds yet. I could probably take that straight into the interface. But of course, what I could do also is, and I'll just do this because I'm running the DI box, so I'm getting the DI signal to my interface's input 1, and the amp that is mic'd up is going to input 4, and in here we can see that, yeah, so track 1 Amplitube is on input 4. So what I could do with the routing, I could add another track, have that come in from input 1, and I could just, you know, get crazy with this. And let's add another Amplitube. There we go. I mean, and the possibilities are endless. So now we have Amplitube on track 2. The input is the input 1, so that's the DI signal. So then we just put that on. So now we have and the Amplitube simulation. And then so I could pan this here and pan that to the left, and now we have this kind of and then of course we could add some effects here. Let's take a reverb there also. Let's put some hall. You know. And how about, if we would like, we could add bass for these channels, and then we could, you know, just like stick a compressor in there. But yeah, you can just go crazy with the routing. I could make an in-depth thing with this at some point. So yeah, and then I could control these Amplitube effects with the MIDI pedal. And but what I also want to do now is, let's put that back in the middle. And let's take the Tubescreamer off, leave it at this dirt. And then I'll quickly go into my cabinet and I'll change the mic position a bit, and we can hear the difference. So yeah, you could hear me closing the cabinet, and you know, or the that I have the cap in, and yeah, so you can hear the difference. So I can just go there and mess with the mic placement as same as you would do in Amplitube. In here, you could go and use this, and you know. So yeah, I like to have options. Let's put this back on, and let's pan them both in the middle. And there's quite a lot of reverb in my Amplitube, so I could take those off, and let's take it off from here also. There you go. And as you can hear, I don't have a noise gate on this input here. So if I would like to get rid of the hiss, well, let's slap this in there. There we go. That works. And then, since we have the boss here, we could and that's quite a rough sound. We could of course add some reverb into the boss. Let's hear how that sounds. More. And I'll go and to my cab and actually change the mic placement a bit. I think it's pretty harsh. Because the microphone was straight in the middle. So yeah, that's with a lot of reverb in there. And what else? You can do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you could EQ, of course, do the basic like low cut, a little bit of high there, and then let's add some mids around 1K. That's really much reverb. And how about if we add a phaser into the other guitar? Let's hear how that sounds like. Phase 9, yeah. I'm just messing around. But yeah, so using your amp with Amplitube, yeah, a ton of fun. You can do, all sorts of stuff with it. Weird routing if you have and I suggest to have a DI box anyway. But and you could go much further with all this stuff, and to really like sculpt your sound. And well, you can have as many amps as you want nowadays with software. And but yeah, it's like I think some pedals behave a bit differently. Like example, a boost. When I run it into an amp, I like to. That's why I've got that hooked up, because I do have boost pedals, and I like how they sound when I run them into the Joyo, and so I'm gonna be using that a bit more, I think, when I'm doing demos for pedals and stuff like that. So I'll be running them into the Joyo instead of just straight into Amplitube. So, but I might do this hybrid thing. So I might run the pedals into the Joyo and then add some, effects from the Amplitube that I don't have in pedal form, because I actually don't have a ton of pedals. And I have a lot of like dirt. You would call them dirt pedals, so fuzzes, overdrive, and that sort of stuff. But not because reverb, delays, and that stuff is a bit harder to DIY. They can get a bit more expensive. So because of the parts you need for them. So I don't have a ton of those. So I like to, and this is why I've done this, because I like my amp, but I like to add some like really nice reverbs, delays, chorus, all that sort of stuff, modulation, and of course do these weird routings and have wet, dry, wet rigs going into different tracks and have a bass on them and all that stuff. So yeah, I hope that explains how you do that, and next time I'll be doing something else, maybe even playing decently at some point. But these are just to show what you can do with your gear and how you can apply your gear if you have Amplitube to Amplitube. Alright, that's it. I'm off.